Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gavin Rennie. I'm from the alumni team at Heriot-Watt. I'd like to first of all invite our SU President and VP for Education, Alex Headland and Emily King, to introduce this webinar, and the rest of us will actually come off camera for a little while, for 5 minutes while the introductions take place. Thanks, Emily and Alex.
Perfect, thanks, Gavin. So hi, I'm Emily. I am the current Student Union President at Heriot-Watt University Student Union. Alex, I can't see you on my screen, but I know you're there. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, I'm here too. I'm Alex. I'm the current Vice President Education for the Student Union.
Perfect. And I thought we'd just give a little bit of background about, why we're really excited for this webinar today, and a little bit about the work that we've actually been doing that has brought us to this point. So after speaking with students and getting some feedback earlier in the year, we realised that, with the pandemic, that we've been in a really difficult position, especially for our class of 2020 graduates and recent graduates before that. And also to our current graduates who are about to graduate in the 2021 cohort. I don't think any of us anticipated for the pandemic to last as long as it has. So we are very aware that, the world of work that our students will be entering now can be quite daunting. So we actually ran an event earlier on, well, I say earlier in the year, but I just realised we started a new year. So towards the end of last year, with some of our graduates from 2008, so around the time of the financial crash, to give a bit of insight to some of our students, about how they navigated their way through a difficult time period. And, some of the feedback that we got was that the event was incredible, but some students would be really, really keen to hear from some more recent graduates and some of their stories to share some success and inspiration. So that is what kind of has led us up to this point. So we've been working together with the Watt Club and with Careers to deliver this for you today. So we're really excited to be a part of this and learn just as much as you guys can all learn from it as well.
Absolutely. Hope you guys get benefit from this event and feel supported. We take it very strongly that, you're part of the student union from the moment you step through those doors and even after you leave. So we hope to put on plenty of more events as well and make sure you guys are best equipped to navigate this unfortunate situation we're in at the moment. So thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks very much, Emily and Alex. I'd like to now invite two members of our careers service as well to have a short introduction, Sarah Innes and Lorraine Chambers, pardon me. Thanks again, guys, and I'll disappear again. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gavin. And thanks to Emily and Alex as well, who I think have just summed up the situation sort of very, very well there. My name's Sarah Innes. I'm a careers consultant based with the Careers and Graduate Futures team at Heriot-Watt University, and you'll also be hearing from Lorraine in just a second. We're going to give a very quick introduction because I know you're keen to get onto the panelists and hear what they have to say. But as Emily just mentioned, this is unprecedented times in terms of we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. I've worked as a careers consultant for many, many years now and been very firmly rooted in the sort of graduate progression and graduate market and higher education, both here in the UK and abroad. And we do see challenging times at different times. And but I think what we have at the moment is slightly more unusual because we are seeing a steady stream of vacancies coming through to our service, but we know that graduates and students are feeling a lot of uncertainty about the future market. So it is even more important than ever that you really make use of the services that are available to you. And we have professional careers consultants who are there ready to support you with really strong knowledge of how the graduate market works. we're very excited because Lorraine and I and myself have set up a new service, which means that any graduate from Heriot-Watt can access individual guidance services within 2 years of their graduation. So the service and the support doesn't stop once you finish at university. And from our experience, we know that that period just after you leave university can be absolutely crucial in helping your confidence to go for the opportunities that you're really interested in. So we can support you with that, not just with the practicalities of job search, but also the career planning and decision making, which is often the thing that people feel very uncertain about. So I'm going to pass over to Lorraine now, and she can explain a little bit more about how you can access that service.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah, for introducing me. It's fantastic to be part of this new service supporting all recent graduates. Just a little bit of background on myself. So I was a careers consultant for the School of Social Sciences for 13 years. And in my previous life was a graduate recruiter for Siemens, a global engineering and technology firm, recruiting a wide range of graduates and students for internships and obviously many different graduate programs. So like Sarah, I've been in the graduate market for many years and, have a wealth of knowledge and professional guidance to offer you all, whether you're a current student or a recent graduate out there. So just a couple of quick shout outs for you for the key kind of links on accessing the service. So first of all, our Grad Futures platform, there's the link there, and that will give you access to, first of all, booking if you feel you really would like that one-to-one individual confidential kind of careers consultation. You can either have a 30-minute or a 15-minute appointment with Sarah or myself, or if you're a current student, any of the other careers consultants. There are career consultants for each of the schools at Heriot-Watt, so you can book through that there. We've also got a wealth of career resources available 24/7 on that platform you can tap into. Sorry, just if you would just go back a slide, thank you. We've on that platform, you can see you've got access to the events calendar, so a whole range of workshops, skills sessions, including ones employers run as well, and career fairs. And then moving along, we have a very full and lively job database. At the moment, we've got about 1,200 vacancies that employers are actually, actively recruiting for, and they've come to Heriot-Watt because they're really interested in our students and our graduates. So we also have the careers website as well, which is still got a wealth of information on to help you. So you can see the link for that there. Again, lots of information on the global career resources on there, the careers mentoring program. There's a wealth of practical kind of hints and tips on applications and the kind of recruitment process. So really, it's just to kind of wrap up and say, please to use the support that is out there for you, no matter what stage you're at, no matter what your questions are. You can be assured of a confidential, up-to-date and professional kind of support service for you, and look forward to seeing you. Those are our contact email addresses there too.
That's great. Lorraine, thank you so much for that introduction. And I'll now ask our four recent grads to join me on camera. So I'm joined today by Declan McCrossan, Maura Quinn, Sam Fairbairn and Joe Sykes. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I'm really delighted you're here. I'm going to just give a short intro for each of you, and then I'd like to ask you to say a little bit about what you do now, where you work and what your job is. But before I get into that, I just want to run a very quick poll while we do this. We love to hold these events to show just how wide our reach is and see where our alumni are joining us from today and our students are joining us from. So if you could tell us, please, where you're joining from, that would be great. And while that's running, I'll go to, in no particular order, our first panel member, Declan. Declan graduated in 2018 in business management, according to our records. Declan, do you want to give us a little bit of information about where you work and what you do, please?
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me, Gavin. So my background is within the drinks industry. After I graduated, I landed the role of Chivas Regal brand ambassador in India. Following that, I gained a role with Krabby's Spirits in the UK as their brand ambassador and business development exec. And just recently, I've moved into the world of influencer marketing, and I'm a business development executive for Europe's largest growing influencer marketing agency, the Go Agency.
Amazing. Thanks, Declan. Moving on to Maura, you graduated in chemical engineering in 2019. Do you want to give us a little bit of information as well about what you do and where you work, please?
Yeah, of course. So my role at the minute is a project engineer for Estee Lauder companies. So Estee Lauder companies is the #1 global prestige beauty brand across the world. So yeah, I've been in my role for the last 9 months now, and it's ever evolving and growing, and there's lots of challenges, and every day is different. I know everyone says that, but it really is that in my case. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 9 months.
Thanks, Maura, and thanks again for joining us. And Joe, you graduated in international business management, in biological sciences in 2018. Sorry, that was Sam. Joe, do you want to give us a little bit of an update on where you work and what you do, please?
Yeah, so I studied biology, and then I went over to Warwick University and did a master's in biotechnology, bioprocessing and business management. And then I am now working at AstraZeneca, which is very much in the news at the moment, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, a pharmaceuticals company on their global operations graduate program. And I've been here for almost 2 years now. My current role is as an associate process facilitator. So I am a first line manager on the packing lines that are making chemotherapy drugs.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Thank you. And finally, last but not least, Sam, you did graduate in international business management in 2017. Sam, do you want to, same question to you, where do you work and what do you do?
Yeah, so after graduating in 2017, I joined Float, who was a small tech company based in Edinburgh, as their sales development rep, and I progressed in roles through there to become an account executive, then left for a period of 9 months, then came back to Float to become an account manager, and now I am a key account manager. And what that basically involves is managing all the customers that are highest value customers at the moment, making sure that they stay with us and arguably grow their usage as well. So yeah, I've been on and off around about 3 years at Float. Great,
thanks very much, Sam. Really keen. We're going to look at 4 questions. We're just going to do the same format and talk to each of you about your experiences. Joe, I'm going to start with you in the first question, please. Really keen to understand what you did as a student to build up your professional profile. So looking particularly at the range and breadth of activities or experiences that you had. Did you reach out to particular people? Did you speak to anyone, connect to anyone that helped you as you ended the end of your studies?
So I would say probably the most important thing I did was to land an internship, a summer internship at Nestle in quality, actually, tasting chocolate. That was a real turning point in terms of having their company on my CV and to get some proper experience, I would say. I also, for anyone who knows, at Heriot-Watt, they have a society called First Aid Africa, and I actually volunteered with them and went to Malawi one summer and spent 10 weeks there teaching first aid. And I was also Biology Society president at one point. So I just got really involved, I think, in terms of everything outside of my degree. And I think that that is what probably gave me talking points in an interview for them making it further.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Thank you. First Aid Africa do an amazing job. Thank you. And over to Maura for the same question, please.
Yeah, so I find the opportunities are always there. You just have to keep your eyes open. Like, they present themselves to you all the time. And I feel like always saying yes more than no when they present themselves to you. So in uni, you know, there's loads of different things that you can be involved in. You can be a class rep, you can be a mentor, you can be involved in the sports clubs. There's loads of different society clubs, drama, music, even the chaplaincy as well. And there's sports union positions, there's student union positions, there's scholarships, competitions, events. You just have to keep your eyes open and be interested in them. If there's ever a chance where you think, oh, maybe I could do that, you just don't let that doubt creep in, just do it. You always want to make, I always find that I'd always rather do it and fail and know how to do it better next time, rather than say, oh, I don't know if I could do it and then regret that. But when I was at uni, I signed up to be a class rep, and I remember it was quite nerve-wracking because we were from the first year, and it was sort of like, who wants to do it? I'll stand up, and anyone who wants to do it, just come to the front of the class and say why you want to be a class rep. And I was like, gosh, I'm not prepared for this. But I wanted to do it. I didn't want to say no, so I just got up, and I don't even know what I said, but I got it, so that was good. So I ended up being a class rep for 3 out of the 5 years, like on and off. I was also in the sports clubs, which gives you sort of like a different spin on, I guess, different, because they're, in a way, the sports teams are kind of run somewhat like small businesses. You've got like the committee members, and you've got treasurers, and there's all different aspects to it. So it sort of gives you a different insight into how, you can be as a leader, and I think it's kind of like a small business in a way. So yeah, I was involved in Gaelic and cheer, and ended up in a committee position in Gaelic as well. So this is all just within university, like not even discussing outside of uni. It could be here all day. But yeah, that was just a couple of the things I did specifically in uni.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then over to you, Sam.
Yeah, I'd say probably the best thing I did was establishing a really great relationship with the career service, in particular Lorraine as well. I think, it was just sort of the first experience of what post-university life would be like. It can be quite hard to get an understanding of what that looks like, but obviously in chatting to the career service, you can really get an understanding of what to expect. Also as well, I think I invested in LinkedIn fairly early. I know it's something that typically, after uni, you maybe pop your graduation photo on and start looking into it then, but I would encourage you to look at it as much as possible. Certainly for me and in my role, LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool for me to use, not only to help engage with my customers, but in sourcing new ones as well. So building sort of as much of an understanding, following the right people, really using it as a bit of an insight into the market or to the particular area as well. There will be sort of thought leaders and influencers in a particular space or industry that you're concerned about, and that can help you decide about whether or not you go forward too. So yeah, those would probably be my two main things. Also as well, engaging with any post grads that I knew. I mean, there's a couple that were in a couple of classes, or I just sort of bumped into when I was at my time at university. And I guess I would encourage as much as possible to speak to peers, find out what they're doing, just to give yourself avenues to understand what industry, because it can be hard. Obviously, I did an international business management degree, which is quite broad. So I could have gone into marketing, could have gone into operations, but I ultimately ended up in sort of a sales role. And that just fit my personality, but you need to sort of do that that investigative work to find out what particular, not only what industry, but also what role within that industry is going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what I would say to that.
Brilliant, thanks, Sam. And then Declan, do you want to share a little bit about what you did as well, please?
Yeah, so at this stage, I'll probably just be echoing Sam, Maura, and Joe. I agree with everything that they're saying, and my experience is kind of like an amalgamation of all three. Keep yourself busy, take the opportunities, and use your initiative. Anything that you can do at this stage as a student and a recent graduate to kind of separate you from the pack. Everyone's leaving with the same degrees. Anything that can make you different, give you a bit of a USP, is going to pay off in the long run. My experience was getting involved in student unions. Before I came to uni, I'd done a HNC and a HND at college. And while I was at college, I helped found our student union, came to Heriot-Watt, got involved straight away, joined some societies, debating teams, entrepreneurial society. That allowed me to travel to Denmark and Sweden, so international exposure. In third year, I applied for the Entrepreneurial Scotland internship programme. So in my third year summer, I was awarded a fully funded internship to Boston, Massachusetts in the US. So I was working with the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Once again, amazing experience, international exposure, and then it's great to stick on the CV, and it's good to use these internships to apply to your studies going into fourth year. Like I said, it's just a combination of developing your network, taking the initiative, and ultimately giving you that bit of an edge, and that what's going to separate you from the, say, 100, 200 people that are graduating with the exact same degree as you. You need to be sharp, you need to be on it, and you need to be giving yourself the best tools to succeed going forward.
Declan, thank you. That's amazing. I don't know what I prefer, testing chocolate at Nestle or living in Boston for 3 months. That's just amazing. I'd like to just share the results of the first poll that we ran, which will just come up in a moment, but that's been really helpful. Thank you. So almost 90% of our attendees are from Europe. We've got a few in Africa and Asia as well. So thank you to everyone for filling that in, and there'll be another poll coming up in a few moments. That's been really insightful. Thank you. If we can move on to our next question. So obviously, as you approach, and as many students today are approaching their final year and, kind of making big decisions, I'm really keen to understand from the four of you, how did you approach deciding on your next steps and your options? So whether it was applying for jobs and that selection process, there are often, we have to go through assessment centres and various other things. How did you prepare for those? And if we can go to, we'll go back to Declan for that first, please.
Yeah, so my main tip was I was coming from a marketing and branding point of view. So I just wrote down on a piece of paper every single brand that I like, and I kept it as simple as that. Like, I play guitar, I like music, I like beer, I like spirits. So I literally just made a list of every brand that I like, and then each brand, one by one, I wanted to see if they had any graduate schemes or any graduate opportunities, internships, and effectively just created a list of every brand that I would like to work for going forward. And it seems really simple, but it was really effective. I noticed that my passion lay within the drinks industry, and 90% of the brands on my list were within either the drinks, the beer, or the spirits industry. So then I started to look more into it and see who was offering graduate schemes, who was offering like great progression, where could I get in at an entry level. The only problem with that, I'd say, was that I was spreading myself a little bit too thin. If you find what your niche is, find where your passion lies, and then apply from there, but don't spread yourself too thin, especially if you're in fourth year. You've got dissertations, you've got assessments, you've got exams. I was down in London on a Friday doing an assessment centre, straight back up to Edinburgh, having to hand in an assessment or an assignment. Then I was back down to London on the Monday at a different assessment centre. So really hone in on what it is you want to do and who it is you want to be working with, or what you want to be working on. Try not to spread yourself too thin. Try not to be too busy. It's a very important year if you're in your fourth year. Focus on that, but really find the niche and find where your passions lie. And if you're applying for a role or a brand that you're passionate about and you can actually visually see yourself working with, then that's going to help you through the application process, and that passion is going to shine through.
Great. Thanks, Declan. That's amazing advice. Thank you. If we can ask the same to Joe, please.
Yeah, so I think my biggest thing is I didn't really have a plan. I applied for medicine and I didn't get it. And that was kind of my set goal. And that took a lot of time, and then to kind of get rejected from everywhere for that was quite difficult, especially, I'm echoing, you're in fourth year. You really need to be focusing on that result, because regardless of the other experience and the jobs you'll have, you still need that result. So then I kind of went back to the drawing board. Okay, I don't want to go too much further into science. I'm starting to look at maybe still within healthcare, but combined with business. So I just looked for some master's degrees that would kind of give me the combination of the two, because my degree was very specialist within molecular biology and I didn't have any business. So I went to Warwick and did that. And then I applied for 43 graduate schemes while I was at Warwick. And I would say probably my biggest advice is don't feel like you're the only one getting rejections. I got 6 out of 43, and it was tough. So I would just echo, just make sure you're taking your time, but also don't panic too much if it's not going as well as you think it can go. I landed probably the one that I wanted most. Probably should have taken Declan's advice and really honed in and not applied for all of those, and just, gone for the ones I really wanted, because I performed better in those, and that's what landed me the job.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you. And then Sam?
Yeah, so in full transparency, I actually made the decision kind of halfway through my 4th year to concentrate on concentrate as much as possible on getting the best possible degree classification I could. But very fortunately, because of the relationship I have with the career service, I was sent an email from Lorraine, and she said basically, like, check out Float. They've got an internship. SDR was the role, and I was like, cool, sounds great. Applied for it. And it was because of the size of the company was about 15, 16 people at the time. And so they didn't have, just the size, they didn't have assessment centres. It wasn't part of their process. So it was a standard sort of interview, CV check, interview, and then whether or not you got the job. But I was very fortunate and very grateful to be kept on afterwards as well. But what I would absolutely say too is that there can be a sort of a temptation to machine gun your approach to applications, and certainly in my role now at Float, most recently in October, we hired for kind of entry level positions. So coming out of university, so we hired a grad from Stirling University. But and one of the things, been going through that process, being on the other side of that, and actually working through the applications, it is so easy to tell when it's been put as it's an application that's been part of a number or a stat for the individual applying, and you can really genuinely tell when people have made the effort to do so. And that can happen in a variety of ways. So it's really easy to tell. So what I would say with that is that genuinely you'll probably have a lot more chance if you do focus and hone in. It can be tempting to as I said, I can totally understand the reason why you want to machine gun, because it was sort of like maybe hedge your risk a little bit. But generally speaking, just from the applications that we progressed and the one we eventually hired, it was absolutely clear that he wanted the job, genuinely wanted the job, and that was clear right from the start. And that's really hard to fake. And you will get found out. So probably what I would say is that genuinely carry that purpose, carry that passion through it, and please don't try and fake it, because people in those positions who are going to be making those hires are probably trained to tell that apart. Spot it. Yeah. But then also as well, if you think about it from an organisation perspective, for us, a small organisation, it's incredibly costly for us to have to hire someone and then that not work out and then us have to hire again. So naturally, they're less likely to even take a risk on if there's a concern over whether or not you want the job. Really trying to stick to the ones that you have a passion for. And sometimes a lower number of applications, but higher or greater sort of drive to actually want them is maybe better than just a number of applications.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam. And then, and Maura?
Yeah, so, well, when I was in primary school, like I always knew I wanted to go to uni, and I always knew, then by I hit like 14, I knew I wanted to be a chemical engineer. So I was very lucky that I kind of knew what I wanted to do quite young, and I did do it. So I got the grades, I got a chemical engineering degree, and I knew I wanted to do a master's. So I always had something to work towards. But I just knew I wanted to go into engineering and then eventually be in the business side of things, like in years to come. But I never really, that was all the plan that I had. So whenever I people around me were getting internships, and I was applying for things that I just didn't really know where I wanted to get jobs in. I just knew the only one thing I did know is knew I wanted to work in a big organization rather than the smaller one, and that was it. So I struggled to find like where my passion was. Like a lot of people were going into oil and gas, they had contacts there. I didn't have any contacts at all. I didn't have that network that some people would have through the families or family friends. I didn't have anything chemical engineering. I did civil, but that's not part of my degree at all, really. So yeah, it's funny that you talk about passion, because what happened to me was I looked and I thought, well, you know, I'm a female in engineering, and a lot of the roles are in cars, they're in really mechanical manufacturing, aeroplanes, like oil and gas, that kind of thing. And that just, as much as I love the challenges around engineering, the actual product itself, like I did apply to work with plastics, and like I can't say I love plastics. Like there's no hiding that part of it, is there? But so then I sort of realized through a couple of years in uni, I think we had one module and they discussed like food manufacturing, and they also discussed cosmetics. And I kind of thought, gosh, I never really thought about cosmetics, like creams, like that's chemical engineering, that's mass, that's chemicals, essentially, albeit like fairly natural. And then I realized, like, how did I never think of this before? I absolutely love cosmetics, like who doesn't? Girls and boys, of course. So then I sort of looked up. So there's two main companies, Estee Lauder companies and a competitor, and they don't have graduate schemes, unfortunately. They did in business, but they didn't in engineering. So I was pretty crushed about that. But then I, always looked back just in case there was something that came up, something that was not looking for too much experience. And I probably did check about 3 or 4 times a year on Estee Lauder's website. And then one day, I think it was actually Christmas Day, I was like having another scan, what else have you got to do when you're a student, and you're
opening your presents.
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite funny. So I seen that then they had the internships for Estee Lauder. Now I was graduating. I had graduated actually, graduating. So I was like, gosh, I'm a bit too experienced for this. But this really would be my passion. Like this is the company for me. Lots of their values aligned with mine. They really did. So I thought, if I have to do it, like I don't care about anything else. If I could just get that experience and be in that company. So they had also had a job that asked for a couple of years experience, and that was in chemical engineering. So I thought, I'll apply to both. Never heard back from the experienced one because, unfortunately as a graduate, I don't have 2 years experience. But the internship I did hear back from, so I was so delighted. And then I went through the whole process, and that was just pre-COVID. So I did go through to the assessment day, and then COVID hit. And I thought, that's it. There's no way they're going to take any interns on now. And they totally delayed getting back to me, everything. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And then they ended up getting back to me and says, do you know what? We want to offer you a graduate position. And I was absolutely buzzed. I couldn't believe it. I feel like just taking that little bit of initiative, offering to take a sacrifice, obviously interns, you take a salary sacrifice and, have to move and everything. But yeah, then I think they just seen that, this girl really does have a passion here, and they give me a graduate position. So I feel like it's not all, I feel like when you do have a passion and you really shows through in an interview, and you can be personable because you're not lying. You really do want the job, and they know that, and they want someone who's going to come in with the right mindset. Sometimes mindset, I think, is more than experience, because you can have someone who's experienced, but you can just tell that they just want the money. That's all they want money, and then they want to do their thing outside of work. But yeah, when you show drive and determination to succeed, that definitely shows through. So yeah, sorry, I totally rambled on there, but
I think that there's a recurring theme in all 4 answers, and I think that's really encouraging. To have a passion and really kind of identify what you want to do and where you want to work, and so thank you so much to all of you for sharing. I should have said at the beginning, so I'm just going to mention it now for everyone watching. If you do have any questions for the panel or for anyone else that we've introduced today, please do pop them in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. That's what it's there for, so please feel free. Okay. So moving on, if you kind of look back at the process now, I love hearing the stories. If you look back on the process, is there anything that you would do differently? If so, what advice would you give yourself? And we'll start with Sam, please.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is probably self-compassion and a lack of comparison. I think it can be very easy. I remember being at the time, obviously, you're in a year, and when it gets to that last semester in fourth year, everyone's talking about what jobs they're going to, or they're applying for. Some have obviously got it. You know, you could see it in the library, people being ecstatic at the fact they've just been offered a job, and obviously celebrating and things like that. And you can look at that sort of thing and say, like, why am I not? Like, what's wrong? Like, why am I not getting those positions as well? But I think it's actually does yourself a massive disservice if you think like that. And please try not to compare. It's the thief of joy, really, because you're completely different. What you want, just because someone got, you know, a traineeship or a position at someone like PwC or something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that means that you aren't good enough to get one, or that that means that you can't get a job, because you could look at what PwC are doing and you know, be like, that's not for me. So really kind of try and swim in your own lane as much as possible. And it's probably what I'd say. And as you know, I think Joe mentioned previously, like, the rejection is going to happen, and I think getting a real acceptance of that is key, and getting comfortable with it is also key, because when it comes to the resilience is what eventually gets you the job, right? Or what eventually gets you the job. When you think about those rejections that you have, certainly for me, you know, I was very lucky that I was able to get the position, the internship, and then stay on. But I remember there was a period when I left, before I came back to Float, I was applying for the jobs and I was getting that rejection. It can hit your self-esteem, it can hit your confidence quite significantly. And not just in work, but in all parts of life too. So I think one of the key things would be that would say, like, you know, there's really no other option when you are rejected, if that happens, to just keep going. Use it as an opportunity to hone, look at why, ask for feedback. Always ask for feedback would be the thing for me, I'd say as well. Some organisations won't give you it, but for us here at Float, every single applicant that we didn't get, I called them and told them why they didn't get it, or why we're not progressing their application. Some of them asked for it, but I did it of my own accord, but that won't happen. Always ask for it, because that would be the key. So yeah, just to round up, self-compassion, resilience, accept rejection, and then also, I think that was it.
I think that's fascinating. Thanks, Sam. And I think one of the things that I'm picking up as well is that culture is so important when we start working. And it's something that I respond to really well is if I'm in a job, in an environment where the culture fits me, then I'm a lot happier. And you know, when we speak about Float, I always feel that it's a nice fit for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, as much as, you know, I think it was mentioned in a couple of previous comments about the application, and it can be hard, at least on the face of it, to get a kind of idea, you know, from an application or a website what the culture is going to be. But certainly take the opportunity to try and understand that. And what I mean when I say culture is really generally how, like, the culture of an organisation is how they do things. Mm-hmm. Put it so broadly as literally that. And that's super, super important, because I think, like, even though we're in a pandemic, I saw a quote the other day, and a bad company culture doesn't just go away when you're online. So I think one of the key things is looking at, like, I think Laura mentioned it as well, that values match is really key. Mm. It'll be something that will be, you'll just get a feeling for kind of what the value is. Like, are these people like me? Do they value the same things as me? And hopefully through that process, the interview process, you'll get that idea. Because I worked for, you know, in a time away from Float, I worked for an organisation that genuinely did not have a values match with me, and it becomes really, really detrimental. It can be really, really difficult in that situation. So culture is massive, and I'm very, very fortunate that at Float we have a really strong culture, and we're all very much aligned in our values. So definitely make that part of your kind of investigation when you're looking at new roles or potential roles.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you. And then if we can move to Declan. So same question. Looking back on the process, what would you do differently?
Yeah, that was great advice from Sam. Genuinely great advice, and I'm effectively going to echo the same, in that see resilience as a skill, especially these days. Like, very similarly to Joe, I was applying for graduate schemes pretty much every single day without fail. And every single day I was getting back rejection. Now, you can either use that to your advantage, or you can let it chip away at you, and it can be really detrimental. Like we said, nowadays resilience is probably just as important a skill as any, and the fact that you can get back up and you can keep applying and you can keep going and you can keep striving. Kind of echoing what I said before in terms of like spreading myself too thin, I was applying for graduate roles I knew I didn't have any interest in, and ones that I knew I was not fitted for at all, like just say like finance or like banking, because I saw, wow, they're going to pay me £50,000 as a starting salary. And that I just got blinded by the lights, and I'm thinking, well, I might as well throw my hat in the ring for that one. Tremendous waste of time, like mismatching the skill set. And ultimately, it really wasn't for me, and I probably wouldn't be able to fulfill the role anyway. And that's being honest and looking back. And like I said, that just has a knock-on effect on everything. You hone in on what you want to do. Don't take the rejections to heart, because it's happening to bigger and better people everywhere, all over the world, every single day. You will find the role, and you will find the job and the brand or the company that want you, for your passion, for your experience, for your outlook, for your ideas. And that will come with time. Even in today's job market, you can apply that. Every day's a school day, effectively. Just don't spread yourself too thin. Don't get too low on the lows, and don't get too high on the highs. It's a work in progress, and you will get there eventually.
Brilliant. Thanks, Declan. And then Joe, if I can ask you the same again, please.
Again, just echoing what I would say is I should have thought a little bit more carefully and created a bit of a checklist as to what I did and didn't want. You know, I was similar to Maura in terms of I wanted a bigger company. And, you know, I was looking at the graduate scheme partly because I didn't really know what I wanted. I didn't want to kind of get into a job and be stuck there for a few years. I thought, you know what, 6-month placements is probably the best way when you don't know what you're doing. But also think about, you know, how far am I willing to travel? Am I willing to relocate anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world? So just start to think about all those other things that actually will start to cut down that list of potential brands a lot smaller. And I guess the other thing would be use the resource available to you. I have people now who have applied for the AstraZeneca graduate scheme who will reach out to me on LinkedIn and, you know, ask for advice, etc. And I thought, you know what, why didn't I do that? That makes so much sense. These people, okay, they're just a profile on LinkedIn, but they're just like us, you know. Use the resource, use the careers service. You know, you have a list of people that used to be at Heriot-Watt University, which means that they can give you a connection. It's a simple email. So just use all the resource available to you.
Great, thank you, Joe. And then and Maura?
Yeah, so kind of what Sam mentioned as well is your comparison. I feel it is so detrimental to look at everybody else around you and think they've got everything I want. Like, why are they so lucky? Why am I so unlucky? And that's just not going to help you at all. You have to see yourself as, you know, your own brand. You yourself are a brand. And also, I know Joe mentioned that she did get an internship with a really amazing company, and that's something that like I yearned for, and I just didn't get. And I thought internships were the be all and end all to get you into that graduate scheme, but little did I know that's not the case. You know, everyone gets it in their own way. Summer jobs are still relevant and still provide you with experiences that can get you into a graduate scheme or a graduate role, whether they're in your industry or not. I ended up doing one in construction and like civil engineering firm that was actually mainly health and safety related. And that is what actually caught the employer's eye on my profile. How random, but, you know, great. So it's also, I think, appreciating the small wins as well. Knowing, you know, having not being humble on your CV at all, getting all your achievements down there, even whether it's a couple of bullet points or bullet point list of things that you've done, just getting them out there, because often employers only spend 10-15 seconds scanning a CV. They're just going to quickly pick out something and go, right, okay, yeah, we'll interview. They're not going to spend much longer than that. So yeah. And another thing is, there was a particular book that I read, and I think it was in my 4th year or 5th year, and it was called 101 Questions You'll Ever Be Asked in an Interview. It's by James Reed. So I think it's by read.co.uk, you know, the massive job website.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I think he actually did an event at Heriot-Watt years ago in the business school.
Okay.
I didn't actually attend it. I wish I had have. But one of my classmates had, and I seen she had the book, and she was going for a Rolls-Royce interview. And I thought, oh, like, is that book any good? And she was like, yeah, it's really good. I'll lend you it. It was incredible. It gives you everything about mindset. It really hones in on the first 15 questions. I'll not go into too much about it. And this is not commissionable, by the way. You think I'm plugging this book, but it is really good. It gives you like 15, like if you're in a rush, it'll go through 15 questions, and it just coaches you in a way, like how you should interpret questions. It gives you a chance to sort of interrogate what you're good at and what you're not good at, and be open and honest about yourself. Like, if you don't know where your downfalls are, the employers often ask you where you failed, what you bad at, so that they can really get to know you and see, oh, can we work with her or him or whoever. So I think that's something that I would think that you should do early on. Be open and honest with yourself. Write down everything that you're good at, everything you're bad at, really interrogate everything, so that you know yourself inside out, and then you can, you know, when you're asked these questions, you can just bat them off.
Yeah.
And you're personable as well in an interview. You know yourself, you're comfortable with yourself, you're comfortable with what you have to bring to the table, and that will come across, I think, definitely. So that the book really helped me with that. It really helped me to sort of think about these things and sort of get them down on paper.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would have done earlier, which I did do, I guess, early enough, but I almost wish I'd used them, is the career service. I reached out to Keith, was our main point of contact, is chemical engineering, and he is absolutely fantastic. I could not recommend him enough. Like, he was incredible when it came to building your confidence. You know, I would go in and say, oh, I've got this interview and I just didn't feel prepared. And he would sort of say, why, you know, if you're not believing in yourself, how are they going to believe in yourself? Like, you've got this. And he just sort of came out, and you think, I do actually, yeah, you're right. He's like, they're not taking you for an interview because they don't think you're any good. And he's just very good in building your confidence as well as giving you lots of skills and sort of helping, you know, scanning your CV. So much. He's got such a wealth of knowledge. As to the whole career service, I couldn't recommend them enough. They do have all the events that they run, like the assessment days, which I went on. I'm sure they probably do virtual things now, I'm assuming, but that really helped me when I had my assessment centre. So yeah, they definitely use the career service as much as you can. Squeeze every little bit of information out as much as you can, because you only get it once. You only get that through, well, I guess you get it for 2 years longer now, but which is great. But yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. So can you just remind me the title of that book? Is it 101 questions you'll be asked? Is that right?
I think it's called 101 Questions You'll Be Asked in an Interview, or You'll Ever Be Asked in an Interview. And it's by James Reed.
Okay.
So R-E-E-D.
Yeah. Asking for the audience, not for myself, just to clarify.
Gavin,
thanks,
you jumping ship.
No, that's
nice. Like, a great book. And I went to the event that he had at Heriot-Watt.
Oh, did you?
And it was amazing. Like, he was a great guy. And that, once again, these things are at the uni. You go, you can meet these amazing people. He gave us a free signed copy of the book as well, which I literally still have on my bedside cabinet. Any job I apply for, any interview I go to, I always scour it beforehand. An amazing piece of advice, an amazing book. So link in the description below.
Swipe up.
Thanks both. And as if I queued this up, which I didn't, we're going to run our second poll of the day, which is specifically about the career service, because it is a wonderful service for current students and recent grads as well, as we've said. So we're really keen to understand what kind of career support for those for graduates joining us today did you find most useful, and for current students have you found most useful to date. So please just let us know. This will help us obviously going forward. And while that's running, there's been a couple of questions come in, and before we get to our final question, I'm actually really keen to just touch on a couple of things. We've mentioned self-awareness and understanding where we want to work, but I think what I'm keen to understand as well is once we graduate and once we've managed to get an internship or find a job and we're really enjoying it, what happens next? have you found that you've continued to build your network? How have you found that? And learning, you know, I mean, when I graduated a few years ago now. I'm not going to tell you exactly when, but I was really kind of set on that was it, my learning. So my university had finished, and I didn't want to kind of go back into that. But have you found that you've really wanted to kind of keep learning and build your network? And what's that been like for you? And I know this is a bit of a curveball, but maybe if I could ask you, Declan, first, how you found that.
Yeah, never stop learning. I miss university. University was brilliant. Like, great socials, going out with the guys, like grabbing pints, watching the football, going to lectures. Like, it was good fun. Like, best years of my life. So enjoy it, but never stop learning. Within my trade in the drinks industry, it's all about knowledge. It's all about passion, storytelling, knowing the ins and outs of your products, knowing what you're selling, history, heritage. So for me, as soon as I was selected to go on the graduate scheme for Chivas Regal, it was the WSET, so the Wine Spirits Education Trust qualifications, level 1, level 2, level 3. So if you can gain like professional qualifications in your given field, once again, it's going to make you stand out. It's going to show that you've got the initiative. It's going to show that you look forward within your career. Industry standards as well shows that you know exactly what you're talking about in terms of within my industry, wine, spirits. So never stop learning. And like we said, that passion to keep learning will fuel you, and it will ultimately show you that you're the right you've got the right character, you've got the right knowledge, and you've got the right experience, not just for the job that you have at the moment, but for the job that you want to go for in the future. So, So never stop learning, and keep taking the opportunities and maybe like professional courses that are available to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Declan. And Maura?
Yeah, so well, the skill over the last couple of years, over the last year, I guess, I've really honed in on like online courses. So, well, my job actually offers LinkedIn Learning, so I know that I get that for free, but I think there is also LinkedIn courses that you can do for free. So I think like you just find in the time, and people say I don't have time to do that, but you can now just when I go, like, we've all we're doing all day and all we're doing every weekend now is walks, I'm sure most of us. So that's when I just pop my headphones in, and you know, I'll do 30 minutes or something on whether it's a professional course or a personal development one. So professional wise, I also did a NEBOSH course, which is a health and safety course. That was I paid for that, but that is also one thing that if you're an engineer and you're going into sort of a manufacturing or maybe oil rigs, something like that, that's a really good course to have, because it just shows that, you know, health and safety is number one in most careers and most jobs, especially engineering. So that's another really good one. That's one that will stand out in your CV if you can, if you have the savings for it. Or, you know, there's other courses like Udemy, which do maybe like £12 or so, and you can do like Excel courses, loads of different ones. Honestly, there's lots of things out there. It's just, you know, just going on and looking. But yeah, I'm also like in personal growth. I'm a real fan of personal development books like Atomic Habits. There's just literally Google best of personal growth books and you'll find a list, and some of them are really good. And that's as well one thing. I would just pop headphones in and go for a walk, or when you're on the bus or when you're driving, just they're the kind of times that you've got free. That's sort of the things I've been doing recently.
Thank you. And Joe, same question for you.
I think the most important thing is that 70% of all your learning will be in your job. You know, just doing your job, it's amazing how much you can learn so quickly. One of the reasons I chose the graduate program was because you kind of get that kind of learning within. It's a bit of an extension of uni. You know, I still have a lot of that help, but I think probably my advice would be to find a mentor, whether or not that's in your company or outside, someone who's been there and done it, you know, maybe 5-10 years your senior, and look at their journey. Do you like, you know, kind of the path they followed? And I think, yes, you don't need to know what you want to do when you grow up. I have no idea where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. You can do a lot of these online courses, but really get as many jobs under your belt as possible.
Thank you. I must just say as well, Lorraine and Sarah are obviously still part of the session, and they're popping information in the chat, so please do keep an eye on that. Thank you to them. And Joe, mentoring is so valuable. The Career Service also run a terrific mentoring program, and I think that's absolutely worth a look if you haven't already been involved. And Sam, finally to you.
Yeah, so in the company, what Flow does is it's a fintech company. So in tech in general, the pace of change, not to say it's not in any industries, but the pace of change is incredibly fast. So what works 1 quarter or perhaps one, halfway through the year, 6 months of the year, won't work the remaining 6 months, is what I found. So with that, there are definitely would emphasise comments made from Maura about personal development books, things like that. Certainly in my role, there's a bunch of sales books out there. If you're looking for sales books, I would probably recommend ones that are backed by data. So Sprint Selling's one, the Sales Acceleration Formula is another. So look for ones that are backed by data, because you can get some sort of rogue people out there that just think they know what's best. Podcasts are a massive one though. I think part of the reason why that is because the pace you can sort of deliver information is much, much faster. It's going to be more up to date on a podcast than what it might be in a book, because ultimately by the time it takes to write the book, potentially what's happened is that information is no longer relevant. So Sales Success Story is a big one. For me, check out that podcast on Spotify. Brene Brown's Dare to Lead is also great as well. That's also a podcast that I listen to. And I think also one of the key things I would also definitely agree with Joe's comments about learning on the job. It's huge, it's absolutely massive. The practical element is enough just to kind of exponential growth in your learning. So be very, very accepting and comfortable to fail. I think is a massive thing. A lot of what we're talking about today is definitely personal development stuff and personal development kind of related. So a lot of it is your mindset, and that would be one I would definitely say as well.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Sam. If we could just bring up the results of that second poll now, that would be great. And we'll move on to our final question. We're running a wee bit towards the end of the session. So I think it's really interesting just looking at these poll results. So a quarter of people attending today's session haven't used the Career Service. And I think this is one of the reasons why we work with the Student Union and with the Career Service as well, is to really promote that and encourage people to get involved as much as they can. But a nice even spread of the support that was helpful from one-to-one meetings and assessment centre practice and so on. So thank you to everyone for filling that in. We'll have one more poll after during this question, which we'll just bring up just now, please. So the final one is around the topics and what our audience would like to hear about going forward from if online networking, or hearing from more experienced alumni about their careers, or developing your networking skills and so on would be helpful. So I look forward to seeing those results. Thank you. And so finally, obviously, the last 12 months has been unprecedented, and I just wanted to quickly talk about that with you guys. So we've all had to adapt, and I'm keen to hear what impact the pandemic has had specifically on your role. Have you had to change your working pattern, your working style, and learn new skills, for example? For me, my job primarily is online, which is quite new for me and something I'm really enjoying. So do you see those skills and that approach being used longer term, and how do you feel about that? And if we can go to Sam first for that, please.
Yeah, so my role was, because we're a tech organisation, we were very, very fortunate that when the first announcement came back in last March, we were able to just go straight to working from home. Arguably, somebody wanted to find setups and desks and things like that, but in terms of the systems and processes, largely unaffected, which I'm definitely grateful for. I think in terms of the way that my role's changed over the past kind of 12 months, the industry that we work in, not to bore everyone to death, but we provide cash flow forecasting software. So over the past 12 months, with so many businesses being shut across so many different industries, their cash flow has been significantly affected. So the demand for what we did actually increased quite significantly over the past 12 months. And so the hours that I had to put in were naturally had to increase, or at least I thought it did initially. So what I would say is that, I think it's commonplace across the board, is make sure you have those divisions in your work and personal life. I made the mistake of going, it's so easy to continue to working from home late into the evening, but you need to be able to divide that time 100%, even if you've got the setup like I do here, where you're working from your bedroom. And in terms of sort of the skills themselves, I think one of the key things would be, just because events are not happening in person doesn't mean those events aren't happening. I think we've seen this massive adaptation towards virtual events, and especially with Zoom's functionality for breakout rooms. It doesn't exist in this meeting room, but essentially allows for smaller groups that can again come together into a larger group as well. So I see a lot of organisations using Zoom's breakout rooms as a way to get around those virtual events. And it is going to be uncomfortable, like there's no getting away from that. It doesn't feel the same. But I wouldn't want to, I would say, miss out just purely based on that.
Great, thanks, Sam. Joe, I know that you're really short on time, so if you got anything that you want to kind of say to that about the impact of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think working at AstraZeneca, my job got about 4 times as busy as it was before. Is probably the first thing to say. I worked from home a bit, and now actually I'm on site managing a team. But I think to have that conversation with your manager around work-life balance, it's very difficult when you are at home and you're working in your bedroom. To switch off, I was working predominantly with people all over the world, which meant that the timings just, I ended up working all the time. So have those discussions, talk about wanting to take a 2.5-hour break in the middle of the day and adjusting your work times so that you can go for a walk. I know that in the winter, it's the only time you would see any daylight. So I think just being open about how you're feeling and around your mental health is really important.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you very much, everybody, for having me. But unfortunately, I've got to leave. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And Maura, if we can go to you, please.
Yeah, well, my job changed in that, I got my job during the COVID, so it didn't really change. I just came into the world of how the workplace was. So I see now my job changing as I'm here, because some more people are sort of filtering back in and out. Whereas when I got my job, I think I was offered it in April, and I moved over in June. So there was really no one on the roads or anything. It was quite scary, actually. It was like an apocalypse at that point.
And so did you have to move house? Did you have to kind of relocate? Yeah,
I had to relocate from Northern Ireland, where my home is, to the south of England.
Okay.
So I got the boat and everything, drove over, had everything packed up. It was, I had a letter from Estée Lauder to say that I did have to move over, and it was for work, and I had to be on site because my job is primarily so we do all different kinds of engineering projects. So I do currently I'm on a construction project, so I'm managing construction, but also managing an internal clean room. So we're building a new creams room, it's basically called. So it's got all vessels and pipe work and all these sort of things. So it's very varied, but we then of course have the contractors who will actually carry the work out physically. So you need to have a site manager and you need to have an on-site contact. So I guess it was more when I came over, in terms of the masks, and they have all the safety measures in place, one-way systems, all of that. It was more maybe the contractors that it was hard to manage them, because they're not used to that way of working. They're used to just getting stuck in, big team arriving on site. We couldn't do that anymore. So, I had sort of put the health and safety hat on and say, try and sort of manage that. So I guess that's been difficult, and it's been difficult in that I'm a people person. I love to get in a room with people and discuss things rather than over Zoom. I think body language is important with the mask. It's very difficult to tell if people are not impressed, or it does make it challenging. And I think it's just finding ways around that. You just have to be more direct now. You just have to ask. You have to, when people have got masks on, you simply don't know how they're feeling. So we'll always say, and one thing on site is people will always just ask you how you are all the time. which is quite nice because, you know, sometimes you can't tell from the way someone looks. So yeah, but now I see, you know, there's more health and safety measures always being filtered in, but there is more people coming back. So we even got testing twice a week now on site.
Wow.
But yeah, so I guess it's going to slowly start to filter into another new way of working that I'm not used to, which is more people on site and I guess less measures. But you have to be agile and just be open to it.
I wonder, thank you. I wonder if that's an advantage actually, that today's, you know, recent graduates, so people moving into the working world, have over people that have worked for maybe 10 or 15, 20 years, and that it's not as new to them. So they're not kind of stuck in their ways. They don't have, you know, a working pattern or system, and actually this is normal. So there's less disruption for them. You know, and that might well be something that we can take as a positive.
Yeah, there's pros and cons definitely all around. I mean, we are more used to using technology and that kind of thing, whereas I guess some other people just don't have that experience, where they're not used to communication is completely changed. You know, people who like me, who generally do like to be in a meeting room and discuss things and sort of get to know people and have a bit of a laugh too, because sometimes that can just solve problems easier rather than being so serious. But you do just have to adapt and find new ways. I mean, Zoom's great. Like, obviously all these apps now have completely changed, and that you can share your screen, you can write on things, and just getting really au fait with that, using all the tools in the toolbox that you have to get things done.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And then last but not least, to Declan, please.
Yeah, so I've unfortunately been affected very heavily with COVID. My last role, being a drinks brand ambassador for a whiskey brand, meant that my 9 to 5 was setting up events, going to bars like cocktail competitions, whiskey paired dinners, and unfortunately can't travel, can't go to bars, can't go to restaurants. Everything just came to a halt and was made redundant in June. And from June till November, it was literally just 3-4 months of applying for jobs. And the good thing was, like, being made redundant, knowing that like the bar industry and like the hospitality industry was on its knees effectively, gave me plenty of time to reevaluate my skills, see what I was good at, and see where I could maybe improve. And taking that time to say, well, this is where I think I could maybe improve, and this is where I can bolster my skills and my CV, could allow me to apply for jobs like the one that I have at the moment. Very keen on marketing and branding, wasn't too keen on the idea of influencers to begin with, but that allowed me to develop a whole new skill set, and it's allowed me to break into an industry which will complement me going forward, hopefully when the hospitality industry and the drinks industry opens back up. So you've kind of got to take the rough with the smooth, see any setback as an opportunity to develop, to optimize what you're doing, and to reassess where you are and where you feel like you're going. I enjoy working from home. It's great. I'm sitting in my like little homemade office / bar area at the moment. And it's good because I don't need to worry about relocating down to London. I don't need to worry about like a 45 minute to an hour commute. I get up in the morning, I have my breakfast, and I'm fully involved in work from 9 till 5. I can't really escape it. It's very tuned in, and I feel like the time that I spend working allows me to kind of take my mind off the fact that we're in lockdown. There's a good solid 7 or 8 hours a day of good quality work that I'm producing. So from an organizational point of view, I feel like brands and companies are probably getting more out of their employees. There's not as much hassle in terms of, like I said, relocating or commuting or actually having to physically be within the workspace. You can work from the comfort of your home, and I feel like that comfortability is actually what allows my creative juices to flow, and that in turn helps the role that I'm doing. I think from an organizational point of view as well, the fact that you don't have to worry about like premises or actually having areas to host clients or to host employees is a massive benefit. And if we can shift more like necessary work that can be done from home rather than having to unnecessarily travel or to like have event space or even an office, that's going to be a tremendous advantage to employers going forward, because that's a lot of cash that they don't have tied up in intangible assets. So I'm a big fan of working from home, and I think it's a really good change, and hopefully we can adapt more of it going forward.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Declan, and thanks to Maurus and Declan for taking the time today to join us. We do have the third and final poll results in, so we're just going to share those just now, which will really help us and developing networking skills and hearing from more alumni about their careers are certainly popular choices. So that's really helpful to help us as we provide more content going forward. All that's left for me today is to thank everyone for joining us, our attendees, a mixture of students and graduates, and to our panelists, to Emily and Alex in the Student Union, from the Career Service, from Lorraine and Sarah, and from our fantastic panelists. I've really enjoyed talking to you and hearing about your experiences, and lots to take away, lots of fantastic advice, so thank you. We look forward to producing more events like this. So thanks again.
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you. Okay, we'll speak soon. Thank you.